Now let's move on to the next question. The next question is, just enlarge this. Okay, let's make some spaces. But before this, I need to have this converted to the comments, right? Okay, and then just make some spaces so that I get the question number 3 on top. Okay, now the question, the program should be fairly simple. This is not a textbook question. A line of text is read from the input terminal into a stack. Read it from the terminal and then have it pushed back to the stack. Write a program to output a string in the reverse order, each character appearing twice. Now these programs are short programs, okay? So you will be able to finish with ease. So first things first, I'll have the string, right? So str, or perhaps you can have, right, str is a keyword, right? So we'll have the data equals, the input, enter a string, enter a value, right? Enter a value. So I hope you got the question. We need to create a stack and then print, the content of the stack in a reverse manner. But while outputting, while printing it, it needs to appear twice. Okay. So if it's the apple, the E will be the first one to get out of the stack, but E should appear 2 times, right? So this is a simple program. So first get the string in data, and then for ch in data, let's prepare a stack. Okay, so you have an empty stack like this, and then press enter. For ch in data, you use the function of append. All right, append, and then you have the ch. Now this is very simple, right? Let's say if I enter apple here, okay? If I enter apple here, for ch in data, ch will have the first value of a will be appended or pushed onto the stack, and then next comes the b will sit on the top of and then the second p will stay on the top. So this is how you read the input from the terminal and then have it pushed onto the stack. So A will sit at the bottom of the stack, while E will sit at top or at the top of the stack. So now the real question is, we need to print it. We need to print it like this. While true, as long as you do not come out of the loop will keep running. We have said the condition is true, but there should be a way to come out of the loop, right? So as long as the condition is true, then what I do is I print. Okay, I print. I do it like this. How do you pop the first element? How do you pop the first element? Is you have the stack dot pop. Okay, or perhaps you can just write stack here in order to make the coding simple. Otherwise, I'll have to use the break, the statement to come out of the loop. Stack dot pop. Okay, so this apple, will sit like this: A P P L E. Right. So this will be the status of the stack. Now, when I say stack dot pop, the topmost element will be popped off. Okay, but while it comes out, why don't you use the replication operator? So when a string is used with multiplication sign, it becomes the replication operator. Since the question demands each character to be printed, twice. And then in order to make the output a little better, I'll use the comma sign, right? That's it, I guess. So we'll just save the file and run the program, right? So when I run this, enter a value, right? The value will be apple. When you press enter, as you could see here, in a reverse order, in a reverse manner, but they appear twice. Or if you want to make the program look a little better, why don't you have it like this? Okay, so this should be a little better. Say I enter Apple. All right. Okay, this is better. So as you can see, just get this up. Mouse is not working properly. Okay, so look at this. So this is the correct answer. The apple is printed in a reverse manner, but when each element comes out, they appear twice. So this is how you write the program for this particular question. Okay, so the program is pretty simple. So if I just run through the program again, enter the value, which will be apple, will be assigned to data. You have the empty list called stack, and then traverse through the individual element of the data, and then while traversing, the individual element will be pushed onto the stack. So this will go on until we are done with all the elements of data. And then stack, as long as the stack is not empty. If it's empty, then it means false. Now that will signal the end of the while loop. So initially you will have whole apple here, and then stack.pop. This is the first, E is the first one, right? E will appear 2 times, and this is how you get EE. Next up is LLP, and then you have AA. So this is a very good candidate question for the examination. Now let's go and check the next question. The next question is, now the remaining 2 questions are pretty simple, right? So let's get rid of this, and then I'll make some spaces. Okay, this is my duster. Now the next question is, it says write a program that, depending on user's choice, either pushes or pops an element in a stack. The elements are shifted towards right. This question is a little strange, but we have no choice but to try to solve the program. But the thing is, we'll not have the user's choice. You know how to write the main menu, and then through the function call, the function definition, you could do that. But we'll just boil down to the crux of the matter. Okay, come up with the program which will help us to write the program for this. Now it's a stack for sure, but the elements are shifted towards right. Okay, when you push, normally it stays on the top of the stack. But the question says that the moment you push, all the elements should be shifted towards the right, so that the new value that's being pushed sits or stays at the 0th index. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you try to push it, normally it stays on the top or at the back. But the question says, it should be at the front. If it stays at the front, the top value will have the index value of 0. So the thing is, whenever you push, it needs to stay at the first or at the last or at the bottom, since the bottom will have the index value of 0. Okay, so the program is not difficult at all. Now let's say I have the def for push, and then you have the STK, which is the stack, and then the value of the incoming, the value is assigned to the I here. Okay, so all you have to do is just use this statement. Now the question is, how do you ensure that the new element that comes in stays at the 0th index? With push, it gets added to the last, remember? So we have to use the function of insert, right? So you have stk dot insert and then 0, I. So the new element will be inserted at the 0th index. So every time you call the push function, the new value to be inserted, stays at the 0th index. So the topmost element will always remain at 0th index. So just try to match up between this question and this statement. That should be more than enough, right? And then for the pop, okay, so def, and then you have, don't use small pop, big, this is the user defined function, right? And then you have stk. Now when you pop it, it has to be, removed from the first one. Okay, it has to be removed from the first one. Because when you remove the top, the top sits at the 0th index, right? So from the stack, if you try to pop it, the topmost element has to be popped off. The topmost element has to be removed. But the problem here is, as per the question, the topmost element resides at the 0th index, right? So I know this question is a little tricky, but it's not that complicated as it appears. So just try to focus on this and then get on with the program. So if you want to pop, then it has to be like, okay, you have this stk dot and then pop. What did you have? 0 here. Now this is the built-in function. This is the built-in function. Okay, this is the user-defined function, right? So the program means like this. Now let's say if I have something like this. Now this is the original 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the stk, right? Now let's say I call upon push. I want to insert a value. Let's say the value of I is 10, right? Now this 10 will be inserted at the 0th index, which means all these values will be pushed towards right. As per the question, they'll be pushed towards the right, and then this 10 will be inserted at the 0th index. So in a way, the top value always remains at the 0th index. So when I run this, it will be something like this. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index of 10 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so insert the value of I, which is 10, at the 0th index, as a result of which the remaining elements will be pushed towards the right. And then since this is the topmost element, when you pop it, this should be the one to be popped off the stack, because this is treated or considered as the topmost element. So if you have this stk.pop 0, this will be popped off. You cannot pop it from here. So make sure that you have the 0 here, alright? So, it sounds to be a little complicated, but it's not really complicated as such. All you need to know is the top always remains at 0th index. So when you do that, the elements should be shifted towards the right side. Now let's say we run the program. Sorry. Now you have the main part of the program like stk equals, let's say you have 6, 7, 8, and then you have 9, right? And then I would like to call this function, okay? Let's say I want to call the function push, and then I set the stack, and then a new value of 10, all right? New value of 10, and then I print, the stack. I just check. Now, so when I call this, 10 will be assigned to I, the 10 will be inserted at the 0th index, right? And then, so when I run this, okay, so when I run this, let's see what happens here. Enter a value, oh sorry, this has to be converted to the comments, right? Okay, and then I save it. Run this. Okay, look at this. The 10, indeed, sits in the front. And then if you want to pop it, how do you do it? All I have to do is just call the function x is equal to pop, and then send the stack argument, and then you can print the value, the popped element s. You have the x, and then print the content of the stack. Okay, so when you run this, oh, what happened? Okay, I made a mistake here, so this has to be big P, right? Okay, so that's it, right? As per the question, the new element, is inserted at the 0th index, and then when you actually, pop it, when you actually pop it, the 10 should be the one that is to get out, right? So why do I get this? The popped element is none. That's because, I need to return, right? Return, and then when you do this, there you go, the popped element is 10. So each time you try to push the topmost element will keep, let's say if I try to push 11, 11 will be here, try to push 12, 12 will be in the front, the rest of the elements will be pushed towards the right side. Okay, so it's very simple, right? Now finally, the next question is, the final question for today's session is, write a program to insert or delete an element from the queue depending on user's choice. Will not have the menu options, you know it already. The elements are not shifted after insertion or deletion. So when you have a queue, the moment you try to insert the elements will be added at the end. So which means there will be no shifting of elements, right? So you don't need to worry about the insertion of the element without the elements being shifted. There will be no disturbances in the order of the elements. The reason is the elements will be added at the end of the list. So the earlier elements, will not have to shift. But when you try to delete it, what happens is the first element, if it's removed, from the queue, the rest of the elements seem like shifting towards the left. The reason, or you have the situation like this, say 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so these are the elements in the queue. Initially, you have the index value of 5 as 0, and then you have 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. When you dequeue or when you remove, when this goes off, the index value of 6 now becomes 0. And then 7, 1, 8, 2, 9, 3. It seems like, the elements are shifting towards the left, even though it doesn't physically or technically, but logically what happens is, it looks like as if the elements are being shifted towards the left. Now the question is, you should be removing the element from the queue, but there should not be any shifting. The elements should not shift. They should stick to their respective index values. Okay, so I hope you are clear with the question. Now let's do the program real quick. First things first, we'll have the main part of the program. Q is equal to, let's say you have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Alright? And then let's have a front value is equal to 0. Okay? So now let's call the function of insert. Now this is very simple, right? Q, and then we'll try to add 10. We'll try to add 10, okay? And then let's come up with the definition of insert. Def, insert, and then let's use QU, and then I will have 10, and then QU dot append, and then I. Now this is pretty simple, right? So the 10 will be added right at the end of the queue. So do you see any shifting of elements as such? No. Okay? So now next up is, I go for the next one. Let's say you have the def for remove. QU. Okay? Now this time, I have to take the help of the global front variable. So which means if I use the keyword of global front, which means I am using this very variable. If you do not have this, the remove function will have its own copy of front variable. But I want to use the main front variable inside the function of remove. Right? So which means whatever changes that I make inside the function will have a permanent bearing on the front. Okay, so global front means I'm pointing to, I'm referring to this very variable, right? So normally when I pop, what happens is, when I use dot pop of 0, what happens here is this will be removed, and then the index value, the of 6, becomes 0. So it looks like as if the elements, are shifting towards the left hand side. So which means I cannot use the pop function, right? So let's do something like this. X is equal to, and then why not use the front here? So Q means you're referring to this particular list, right? The value of front is 0. So Q of front means Q of 0. Q of 0 is pointing to the 5. So the 5 will be assigned to X. But are we really removing it? No. This is just like peeking, having a look at the first element, right? So when I say Q of 0, Q of 0 means it points to 5. 5 is being assigned to X. But this 5 as a value remains very much in the Q. This is the very question. You are not supposed to shift the elements, right? So once you're done with this, why don't you increase the value of front, increment the value of front by 1, okay? And then, perhaps, you can return the value of X, okay? So let's just get this little up. Now let's say, I call upon the function of the remove, right? So for this, I have the print and then the removed or the deleted, okay, element S. Let's call the function of remove and then I set Q, right? So what happens here is I call the function of remove. The whole Q will be received in Q, global front. Q of front means Q of 0. The 5 value will be assigned to X, okay, and that's how it will be returned. So we'll run the program and check. Now look at this. Now if you run the program, let's print the content of Q. All right, okay, E and then UE, and then we'll have to print here also. QUE like this, okay? Now let's try to understand the program properly. It's not that difficult, it's very simple. Okay, just get this note down, okay. Now let's check what happens when you run the program. QU is not defined. Okay, this has to be EU, right? And then let's get rid of this. Okay, now let's try to understand the program. Now this is simple, right? Insert Q10, and then when you print the value of Q, you get this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? And then what happens is, now next up is deleted element is remove Q. So I call this function, right? So the value of X, which will be 5, will be returned, and then it will be printed. You have here. But when you print the value of Q, it will still remain as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But the question says, it seems to have been removed. So the fact that the reason why we have incremented the value of front is, now once I call upon this function, may I know the value of front? The value of front is now 1. Okay? So the Q of front generally means you're pointing to the frontmost element, right? So the value of front is now 1. So the front of 1 means it is now 6. Okay? So when you look at the Q, technically, internally, you have you have all the elements, right? But when you refer to the first element in the Q, you normally refer to the first element as Q front. but the value of front has already been incremented by 1. So when you say Q of front means, you will get 6. Okay, so there is no shifting as such, but it looks like, as if, the Q now starts from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It really looks like as if the 5 has been removed. But internally, 5 is very much a part of the list. But the fact that normally we refer to the first and the frontmost element of the Q as Q of front, what we have done is we have made the front point to the next element. Okay? So, the Q looks like as if, it starts from here. So we have managed to logically got rid of 5, but it's not got written off, in real as such. Now it's a little tricky, but it's not that difficult as such, right? So the proof, or say if somebody wants to say, I get rid of this. Let's say you want to, okay, after removing, the first element, you want to have a look at the frontmost element. So normally, how do you do it? You use the front variable, right? So when you run this, let's say when you run this, you get the answer as 6. Okay, as you can see here, you get the answer as 6. So the Q of the front, the moment you say this, you're referring to the frontmost or the foremost element of the Q, and the result that I get is 6. Now say you try to run it again. Let's say I do this one more, just say copy, and then I say paste it. Okay, what I do? Okay, let's say I copy and paste it, save it. When you, oops, invalid syntax. Okay, it seems to have some problem. Now let's say if I call upon the remove function again, say remove, and then I have Q. Alright, so to make the program a little simpler, just get rid of this. Again, I'll have remove Q. Alright, okay, so I run the remove 2 times, and then let's say, let's check out the output. Now this time, as you can see, I have run, or I have called remove function twice. Okay, so generally, what happens is, the 5 should be off, the Q, and then 6 should be, off the Q, right? So the moment you run Q.front, you get the answer as 7, right? So without any shifting, taking place, I'm able to adjust the value of front so that the elements in the front seem to be getting off the Q, right? So just try to understand the program. It's a little tricky, but it's not that difficult as such, right? So this is the program that you write for the question number 5. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you.